Sweet Success is brought to you by Hospitality.fm, the podcast network for hospitality professionals.
I'm Dr. Meghan Grace, and you're listening to Sweet Success.
You've just checked in to Sweet Success. Join me, Katie Cline, for exclusive conversations with hotel executives, hospitality leaders, and industry innovators. Together, we'll uncover the strategies and techniques these masters of hospitality relentlessly refine. Whether you're already in the industry or just starting out, tune in every week to unlock the secret to your sweet success. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Sweet Success. I'm your host, Katie Cline, and today I'm excited to chat with Dr. Meghan Grace. Dr. Meghan is a leading generational expert whose research helps companies, universities, and associations understand generational differences in order to work better together. She's the host of the #GenZ podcast, the co-leader of the Institute for Generational Research and Education, and has co-authored 4 books on the subject. Dr. Meghan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Katie. I'm excited to be here.
Likewise. And really, before we dive in, what I'm dying to ask you is for a little bit of background on what a generational researcher actually does and how you found yourself in this world.
I found myself in this world by accident. I think like a lot of people sometimes do. The people that walk into their careers with such clarity, they're like, I'm going to be a lawyer. I was like, how did you know that? I got here by accident. Really, the quick story of that is I was working on a college campus, and my research partner and I at the time really, we wanted to know our students better. And at the time, that was right when Gen Z was starting to get to campus and operate just a little bit differently than millennials that came before them. So really, it was out of curiosity and hoping to better connect with our students. And that really spiraled is the best way to put it, into a career. Because we both kind of came from an academic research background. And so it was applying research principles to understand generations. Like, I think the common society, which is great, like we recognize there's differences between cohorts. What a generational researcher does is really digs into why and what are the relatively credible trends and data that we can trust to develop what we call a peer cohort culture. And so this idea of what's going on within a group of peers that are born roughly around the same 15 to 20 year time frame, and how are they operating the world a little bit differently than other generations. And so in spiraling into that, it's a matter of being both a trained researcher, but also a little bit of a historian, a little bit of a pop culture enthusiast, a little bit of an economist, have to follow some political science, because all those things influence generations. And it's understanding what's going on in the world today, along with what happened 15 to 50 to 100 years ago, that shapes a generation, because generations are really just reactions to the society that they're growing up in. So that's what generational researchers do, is we figure out what's different and why.
That's so cool. And what was it about Gen Z that felt so different from the millennial students that had come before them?
We had we don't say that there's like a line in the sand where it's like a generation ends and begins. It's like a rough area. We definitely were having different conversations. So like the conversations we would have with students coming into our program just felt different. Like the motivation behind the questions felt different and consistently different. It wasn't just like, oh, that was an odd student from time to time. Like multiple orientation sessions at a large university over a summer where we were like, oh, okay, yeah, the students they're different. They're different in what they're trying to get out of this program and how they're going to operate on campus. And so those questions just kind of like 18-year-olds coming into orientation saying, well, how is this going to help me in my career preparation? We're like, well, we really focus on that in the third year of the program. They're like, well, could I start sooner on the career prep stuff? Or how can I take this and create community impact? And like that was a part of the program, is leadership program. So we always talk about like, how do you take it and apply it other places? But it was these conversations at a much younger age that it was starting to put us on our heels and say, oh, something's different here.
That's so interesting. And that's going to tie beautifully into when we're talking about the workplace and what motivates the different generations in the workplace. But I guess maybe to back up for a second, are you able to give us a bit of a primer on each of the different generations, the approximate birth years, what they're each maybe known for? And like you said, there's not a line in the sand that Jan 1, it starts this age or this generation, but just giving us that general sense of the different generations you're looking at on a daily basis.
Yeah, when we're thinking about today's like modern generations or modern organizations, we're looking at predominantly 4 groups, which would be our baby boomers, which were born 1946 to 1964. So right after World War II, they get that name because people were like, oh, look, safety and security and some money, let's have kids. And that's why we just see a gigantic explosion in the population at that time. We'll come back around to what they're kind of known for. Gen X came after them. So we've got 1965 to 1980-ish time frame. A smaller generation compared to baby boomers. Then we've got millennials, were 1981 to 1994, 1995, like mid-90s time frame. And then Gen Z, we use the brackets of 1995 to 2010. And we're pretty intentional. We're not hard and fast. There's always kind of cuspers, the blending on either side of each generation. And every generation's not a monolith either. So we recognize there's some nuance in there, but when we're looking at those time brackets, we tend to look at about 15-ish years. Because it's also important that we know who's raising who, and generally speaking, we don't have a lot of overlap where there's a parent and a child in the same generation. It's not like it couldn't happen, but by generational research perspective, it's pretty rare. Again, the teen pregnancy from time to time is going to slip in.
Right. And when we think about boomers, Gen X, millennials, Gen Z, what if you had to give a very maybe stereotypical answer of what each is known for? It's a little, I guess, maybe talking about star signs, right? Pisces are creative. It's well, maybe not all of us are, but some of us are. So I know there's going to be nuance there. But if you were to say, boomers are known for X or Y, what would that be?
Boomers they're kind of known for they were raised in a time of prosperity. And so it was just a time of opportunity. And so that really shaped and just general societal loyalty. So loyalty to the country, loyalty to your employer, loyalty to your community. And it's not that we've eroded those things, but that was just really the zeitgeist at the time when they were understanding how the world was happening and what they were going on. And we still see that in our baby boomers that are retired and the ones that are kind of exiting the workforce or still present in it is they were there for 25 years. And you're how? I've barely been somewhere for 25 months. And so it's just a very different mindset of that. And I think they're kind of characterized by that loyalty to something, to a thing, right? Whatever that is. It's not to say other generations are unloyal and don't have those connections, but that's just something that we find to be really present with baby boomers. Gen Xers, I love Gen X. I'm not Gen X, but I love them so much. Again, they're a smaller generation. And I think that if you ask me and only me, it is their ability to be adaptable. And people think, well, isn't that younger generations in general? And I'm well, Gen X started their careers in college with a little bit of technology, but then they've been on the technology train and willing to learn it in every iteration. And so their adaptability, even in middle to later stages of life, is just present there. Mm-hmm. And they really value flexibility. And so I think the adaptability, flexibility piece of it is really there. And then just a general questioning of institutions. So if we see baby boomers being we're loyal, we see Gen Xers being why are we loyal? Just a little, you remember, these are the 80s kids that grew up in the grunge era of the early 90s of just kind of where things were different and weird at the time. Millennials, our friends, millennials, gigantic generation, huge. I think the thing that people kind of pin on us in a good and a bad way is the economic power of a gigantic generation. But also at the same time, how our economic advancement is not to the same potential as it could be, given student loans, multiple recessions within our young adult years, We think about like characteristics of millennials. We see like heightened levels of optimism. And many people like working for millennials because we kind of were told the workaholic mindset of baby boomers, where if you put in your hustle hours 9 to 5, you'll get rewarded. But then we didn't get rewarded. And so we're kind of like, let's hustle, but also let's protect ourselves a little bit too. Let's take care of ourselves and people around us. So there's like this kind of evolution of like the workaholic mindset with the millennial group, if you will, and how we can create like in the workplace, especially more intuitive and like happy workplaces, like places with just more passion driven, I think, in general. And then Gen Z, man, I love them. They're like our younger cousins. Like they keep us cool. No, but Gen Z, they're smart, they're savvy, they're tenacious. My goodness, the questions that they're willing to ask, like I will probably bring that up multiple times. Like they're just tenacious at such a young age and very empowered at a young age. That scares some people. I love it. I'm like, yes, go on, continue with that. But then the thing that I really think sets them apart is just with the amount of access to information that they've had, their ability to learn about like really important things at much younger ages, and how that's like matured them in some ways and then maybe potentially made them grow up a little too fast in other ways.
After hosting for more than 2 years, I finally made the decision to switch to Lodgify. And honestly, I should have done it sooner. If you haven't heard of them yet, Lodgify is a property management software built for short-term rentals and boutique hotels. They make it easy to manage your calendar, update cross-channel listings, automate guest messages, connect with OTAs, and even build a direct booking website. What I love most is that it's intuitive, it's organized, and most importantly, it's setting me up for what's next, whether that be adding more short-term rentals to my portfolio or maybe opening a boutique hotel one day. Lodgify is the kind of platform that grows with you. Visit lodgify.com and use code SWEET20, that's sweet like hotel suite, to get 20% off their annual plans today. Check out the link in the show notes for more. So fascinating. Something you mentioned about Gen X was how they're known for adaptability. And how people then question that and say, well, wouldn't you say that about every younger generation? And as I was thinking about our conversation today, I had a similar question in terms of, I think one of the terms that gets tossed around with Gen Z is that they're entitled. It goes back to a little bit of what you were talking about before of, it's my first year of school and yet I want to know how you're going to get me the dream job and, really looking forward. But then I thought about it and said, actually, when we millennials were entering the workforce, they said that about us too. So kind of goes back to that question of stereotype in a way. As a generational researcher, how do you delineate between stereotype and just cohort behavior? And similarly, are there certain things that every older generation tends to say about the one that's younger than them?
Yeah. So the whole like entitlement mindset of younger generations are entitled is old and tired. Like it's truly old. Like it dates back centuries at this point. Like there's documented journalistic archives that show where it's like younger workers don't want to work. We're like, nobody wants to work, right? Like, let's be real. Like we do it, we like it, and hopefully we do it in a place we enjoy it. But like if given the opportunity, everyone would prefer to be on vacation, right? Like humans are leisure animals. So that is like a very recycled and old, in my opinion, an old criticism, right? It's like, oh, everyone's entitled. Because yes, millennials were entitled. Gen X at some point was probably entitled. Baby boomers were probably entitled. I think people of older generations get intimidated by the tenacity and the energy of young people because they are tired already. And they're like, how dare you come in here with all that energy and those questions and desires to change things. And there's something weird that happens like when a group of people hits 30 plus, all we want in our brain is stasis. We want comfort. We don't want change. We don't want to do things differently. And so when a new generation comes and the rest of us are like, no, we're good, we're chill. They get intimidated by, like, in my opinion, it's the desire for change and the energy for innovation. because innovation is hard, and like innovation does require energy, and it can be a little bit uncomfortable as well. So that's like one thing of like that whole entitlement piece is we toss it aside. It's how does every generation approach what would be considered an entitled question? It always in the workplace comes down to, when am I going to get my promotion? And am I really brave enough to ask that question? And that's where we think a lot of the entitlement comes from, or like just questioning in general about how things were previously can come across as entitlement as opposed to curiosity or opportunity for improvement. When we look at it from a research perspective, though, generational trends is really like, as you pointed out, it's just like looking at and measuring behaviors. So when we see all a trend is a gravitational, noticeable metric that moves, right? So it's if we're seeing, and there's so many different metrics you can bring into this, right? Like, let's just take one that comes up a lot on social media is fashion and the jeans. My goodness, the jeans, the debacle of, are we wearing skinny jeans anymore of a few years ago?
And the low socks. I'm skinny jeans and low socks over here.
Correct.
I am a millennial stereotype.
Correct. It's personal preference, right? But say that we saw a huge shift, like with buying power of millennials moving away from skinny jeans and towards the alternative other jeans that are allegedly cool. That's where we would see like numeric trend of like, there's more jean sales, right? So like we know that it's trending with a group of people within a specific age. Similarly, we can take pulses, snapshots of perspectives. That's where we do a lot of surveying with the Institute of what is the perspective in time. There's so much data that's actually collected that can be delineated by generation that like there's probably mountains and mountains of it that exist in corporate America. So a trend is really just, can we measure that something is different? Or can we delineate that something is different from previous or different from a different generation, a different cohort of people? That's all that is. A stereotype is just a trend that we like to make fun of. That we feel good about making fun of. So like the millennial stereotype of like, Gen Z is like, I love it. They're like kind of obsessed with making fun of millennials, and millennials like, I don't got time for it, but whatever. You can rip these skinny jeans out of my cold dead hands, right? Like that's just where it's at. And I'm like, you can waste your energy on the skinny jeans war. But it's just the stereotype of making fun of a trend. Like it's noticeable enough that you have enough data points to say, oh, interesting. Okay. That is occurring in a phenomenological way, and I want to make fun of it. And there's like, it's when those stereotypes become problematic and interpersonal interactions is the problem. So like, there's nothing wrong with making fun of a stereotype. Like we could toss all the ones out there that we know about millennials. We have been a punching bag for like 20 years by the rest of society. We don't care.
I feel like we have been a stereotype more than any other generation. Like right away, I'm thinking of, all the avocado toasts that we buy and how we can't buy a house because we've bought too many lattes. And you don't really have that many other jokes about the other generations.
Be cooler, other generations. No, that's you and I, two millennials, making fun of other generations. No, it is. It's when stereotypes become problematic in our interpersonal interactions. There's nothing wrong with, I was hanging out with the Gen Zer yesterday, and we could not be more millennial and Gen Z, but we can also make fun of it to each other, about each other, and still have respect for one another in the workplace. Right. Yeah. And so we'll be like, that's so Gen Z of you. And they're like, haha, yes. As long as there's again, that like, we look at like generations as cohorts of with the culture. And as long as we're like being respectful of a culture in any walk of life, I won't say it's like fun, like go make fun of other cultures, but it's one where we can kind of poke a little bit at with some sensitivity because we're just noticing difference. That's not me giving people permission to like stereotype others though.
It's really interesting. Earlier, you said that around the age of 30, we start to seek stasis. And this was something I have personally felt myself, not so much stasis, I would say, but just certain things that I spoke as absolute truths when I was in my 20s, I now am really questioning. And I've always wondered, is that me changing or is that just me getting older? Perfect example. I grew up on Long Island. I moved into New York City right after college. I loved it there. My husband jokes with me all the time that I was like, I could live here till I die. Then we moved to London for about 6 years. And now we've moved back to New York City. And I hate it. I have to say, I'm sorry, New York, you can come at me and I know you will because that's what New Yorkers do, but it's just not for me anymore. I find it to be very aggressive and dirty. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I would really just love to live in a quiet, beautiful place. And then I'm like, that's boring and you sound very tired. And realistically, would I enjoy that? No, it would probably take me like 2 weeks. And then I'd be like, all right, I need to have like 17 coffee shops at my disposal at all given times.
Yeah.
So I guess, is there a distinction between generational trends and that natural progression of aging? Like, what are the things that once we reach over 30, no matter the generation we're from, we see coming true anyway?
Yeah. So, I mean, every generation progresses through similar developmental phases from the time you're born to the time you die. I recently had a conversation with a social gerontologist about the science of aging and how aging is one of those natural things that the human goes through. And regardless of generation, like I always say the 19-year-old brain, because most people know one or have had one. When you're 19, you want friends and you want your own path in the world. And you want to know how to like have healthy relationships with other people. And you want to have your own sense of identity. Your brain is hardwired to do that. Like that's just human hardwiring. And so when you're 19, you're in a space, your brain is in a space of comfort with fluidity, because your frontal cortex is not fully developed. Like that's like our decision making and I've talked with a lot of young people where I'm like, do you feel like you're kind of like swirling and falling at the same time in your life? And they're like, yes. I said, wait till you're 25, 26 and then talk to me and see how you feel. And it's truly, oftentimes when a healthy human is progressing through the natural, interpersonal, and the physiological stages of development, they're in a space of what I would call a Gumby brain, right? Like you are a sponge of things. At the same time, you have all the autonomy in the world to determine if you want to be a sponge of those things. And when all that locks into place, like it is when we are in our late 20s, early 30s, we start to say, I feel pretty good about seeing the world. And now I want to like live in a comfortable, safe, clean environment. And it's not necessarily stasis from a boring perspective, but maybe it's security, because we've done all of that exploration of who we are. It's also the time frame a lot of times when economically we have just more money to design a life that feels more like us. And so not only do we desire that stasis, most of the time, a lot of people are in a space financially where they can create a life that feels like them, and they don't feel they've got their friends, so they don't feel like they have to go out and party and find all their people. They've got them, right? So like the pressure to do things that might have felt uncomfortable previously kind of like dissipates for whatever reason that is. And so when we get into middle age, a lot of times people start to think like, what is my impact on the world? Like, what am I doing with my life? Sort of people go through that midlife crisis, right? And then as we age a little bit closer to retirement, it's like, how do I have an enjoyable life? And so it's one of those things that there's no like mile markers where we say like, as a generation, you can't do anything outside of that developmental stage, or you can't care about making an impact when you're 30, right? Like it's just kind of where we are hardwired. Humans are hardwired in our brain to do certain things and kind of achieve certain things. Where the generational piece comes into it is we really look at the Gumby brain time period of like 17 to 25 to say what's going on in the world that's making this cohort of people and how they develop interpersonal relationships, how they interact with others, how they're personally motivated, how they make decisions, and how they're navigating the world in that time period. That's when we're studying a generation to say, they're developing their own values, their norms, their behaviors. Really, they're writing their own code to navigating society as a group of people, as a little pack, if you will.
Mm-hmm. If you look at these 4 generations that you just spoke about, do you think any of them are more predisposed to having a midlife crisis than others? Or is it just something that can equally come for all of us?
I don't necessarily, and I'm not the gerontologist on this, but I think that the fact that we know more about the midlife crisis, where we wake up and we're like, what have I achieved? I'm almost done here, right? Like that mindset, I think, creeps into people at different phases or different ages, right? We never actually know when our midlife is, because like you get hit by a bus tomorrow, which we hope is not the case. But you do live in New York City, so be careful.
You never know.
That is a risk. And it's a risk where you live. But it's this mindset of waking up and saying, have I achieved everything I want to achieve? And that I don't know if there's a predisposition for that. I think there's always kind of the social emotional coaching that we can provide people, which I do think younger generations are getting a lot more of, like how to live a life that's full and not waiting until you're 50 to figure out what that means.
Right. And when you think about work and career,
Mhm.
what do each of the generations want from work, maybe different from one another? And what do they each bring to the workplace that maybe the other one doesn't?
Yeah, so this is something that we cover pretty deeply in our recent book, Generations in the World of Work. It is an examination of, in a fun kind of way, of a study we did on 4 different generations in the workplace and exactly what they want. Like universally, people want pay, purpose. They want to know that like what they're doing kind of matters and that they're using their skills effectively. So like the idea of being productive and then being paid is universal regardless of generation. That's like why people work. When we see different generations, and kind of like why they work and what they want out of work, we're seeing that Gen Xers and millennials are a little bit more drawn to the collegiality and the social element of work. And there's more than baby boomers are. And that is both life stage, but it's also kind of the way that the workplace evolved when those 2 generations were, and kind of like the expansion of the different types of industries and really the mindset of like workplace design and the role that social connections can have really expanded for those 2 generations when they were kind of coming up through the ranks. Again, I don't just say baby boomers hate their peers and don't want to spend time with people, but they've always kind of been like a put your head down, get your job done. And so baby boomers care a lot more about the opportunity to achieve loyalty in their workplace, the ability to make an impact and provide a place to share their expertise. That's, again, coupled with cohort culture, but a little bit with their life stage as well. Of like, they're really, I mean, they've been doing it for 40 years probably. And so they're experts in their field. And so they're in a kind of in a mindset of like, I want to do my job. I want to do my job well. And I want to be able to like contribute my expertise in a way that is meaningful. So yeah, we see our middle generations, if you want to call them our middle generations, our middle managers, really caring about like the social collegial aspect of work, and the way that it is a social space. That's not to say like only my best friends are at work, but like it does make it more fun, right? Like to have a friend at work. And there's so many studies that are done by workplace design kind of experts that talk about like even having just like one work friend exponentially increases the likelihood of someone enjoying their job and staying at their job. Our Gen Z friends, again, they're still many of them are still in that career exploration phase, but we're seeing that this generation, they want really clear opportunities for advancement. I love this generation. They're already planning for how early they can retire. So they're not just like, I'm not going to climb the ladder. I'm going to climb the ladder so effectively that I can get off the ladder faster than everybody else. And I love that about them. And they might not be interested in climbing the ladder at all. To them, advancement might not be vertical. It might be swirly, and it might be weaving in and out of industries and different companies. They're going to do things differently. And so they are really motivated by an opportunity for advancement and a clear opportunity for that. Even if that means doing some skill development in one company and then maybe switching teams within that company, or potentially doing skill development. And then they're like, actually, I have a good opportunity outside of this company. So they're really right now, socially in their life phase. They want to make an impact. They're very socially mindful, socially active type of a cohort, but they're really in a space of how can they prepare to be successful in a career so that they can end their career early, which I love about them. They're overachievers. They're overachievers in their own rule book.
The next time you're traveling or celebrating an important occasion, book a photographer photo shoot. They make it easy to capture memories by connecting you with hand-picked professional photographers in over 350 destinations around the world. I should know. Capturing memories with family and friends is super important to me, and I've booked photographers from Maine to Paris to London. A photographer shoot is an essential part of every trip I plan. They also have an incredible affiliate and travel advisor program. Add a photo shoot to your customer's next itinerary and earn 10% commission. Visit flytographer.com/sweet success for $25 off your first shoot, or to sign up as an affiliate or travel advisor. That's FLYTOGRAPHER.com/suite, like hotel suite, success. There's a lot of discussion around the return to office mandates that are happening for some organizations, not for all.
Yeah.
When you think about that, which generations are more likely to get on board with that or not be as upset about that? And which generations is that really going to rock the boat for?
I'm going to be careful not to step on a hornet's nest because it's so personally driven, right? It's industry driven. But there are some where we are seeing in our research that baby boomers are probably like, they're open to flexible work, but they were really primed to be like, yeah, I'll go to an office 5 days a week. That's how it's always been. It's fine. Like, but some of them did get a taste of like wanting a little bit of that flexibility. Like even my dad, he goes in 4 days a week, but he's really trying to push for like 1 day at home so he doesn't have to commute. Seems reasonable, right? Yeah. Gen X is very like please give me the flexibility. I think the key for every generation is the demand for flexibility increases as each generation is younger, right? And so and for Gen X or Gen Z, the desires for flexibility are a little bit different. So Gen X is in kind of an interesting space where flexibility is actually one of the number one qualities they want in a workplace. That doesn't necessarily mean I want to be working completely remotely, right? Like they want the flexibility to be like, my kid has a soccer game at 4. Can I leave at 3:30? I might come in at 7:30 to get that done, or I might finish an email at 9 after the kids go to bed, right? So like it's autonomy of choice over that. I think millennials and Gen Z have probably had the most open mind to remote work and less of a desire to go back to work. However, Gen Z is really trying to pendulum swing after the pandemic, where many of them did not get to start their first jobs in an office and have those really important opportunities for workplace interactions, getting mentors, getting friends, getting, again, those collegial relationships that can be really pivotal in the early career phases. And so I think a lot of them are open to it, but are they okay? Again, that flexibility piece, like, yeah, they'll come in 4 days a week, but can they have 1 day a week where they're working from home? You know, like everyone wants more control. Usually everyone wants more control over their time than they are actually afforded, unless they work for themselves like I do.
Right. And when you think about managing or supervising people at work, what do we need to know when it comes to generations? Are there certain must-dos or definitely do not do's when it comes to each of the generations?
Yeah. So they all look for different things, right? So baby boomers, I'm going in their age order. Baby boomers are going to want an opportunity to apply their expertise. So they want to be included, potentially in making sure that the plan's like pretty solid, that it is up to standards, that we're not missing anything. And so they're kind of in a space of they want to apply their expertise. So when we're managing them, we can kind of like, I've managed people older than me. I feel like I manage my parents sometimes. It's the ability to manage up and say, yeah, so you've done this for 40 years. I really value that expertise. I really value the perspective that you're bringing into this. From your 40 years of doing this job, what are the things that we might be missing? So they're like great quality control people to have on your team when you're managing baby boomers. Then just also the fact that like they hold a lot of institutional knowledge and industry knowledge that like I'm fearful that most industries are not writing down and documenting. When we're managing Gen X, it's like the name of the game with Gen X is flexibility and autonomy. This is a generation that let themselves in after school. They were predominantly latchkey kids. They were the first wave latchkey kids where they were like going home by themselves, making their after school snack, doing their homework, doing their chores, going to play with their friends. And then their parents came home. Right? Like they had a whole afternoon routine. Like they don't oftentimes like they're like, please don't babysit me because I didn't even have a babysitter when I was a baby. Kind of like that mindset. Like, so they love the autonomy piece of it. And they want trust in that. Everybody wants trust in a relationship. Millennials love the opportunity to collaborate. Like we love the ability to like work with others and have like a team and feel connected to that. And so millennials are going to care a lot more about, I would say, like the ability to have a harmonious, productive, social environment, but that doesn't necessarily mean like they always want hand-holding and they always need to work on every group project. It is the ability from time to time to work with one another, but they do prioritize collaboration and working with others a little bit more than other generations. And then our Gen Z friends, managing our Gen Z friends right now, where they're at is like, they won't say it out loud, but they love a mentor. I think that the opportunity to help them develop interpersonal skills in the workplace, I'm not saying a developmental lag, but for those who were coming out of the pandemic, graduating and potentially entering the workforce, there was a really long time when they didn't have really typical social experiences. The other piece is just kind of guidance on developing that workplace structure for them. There's a big world of ambiguity. And so I think for them, they're going to ask questions. And again, that doesn't come from entitlement. Sometimes it comes from curiosity. And so the best way to manage them is to give them a space where they are structured, but have the ability to like question things a little bit. So minimizing ambiguity that doesn't need to exist. Like they hate inefficient processes, and they'll point it out when it doesn't make sense. And don't take that personally. It's just feedback to get more efficient. But then the other piece of it is they still want some good old fashioned guidance on how to navigate the world of work and kind of how to get the most out of it. And so it's a mix of, again, that developmental stage, but also the fact of Gen Z. Their world has been really fine tuned by technology. And so if it's not efficient, they're like, this could be better. And so sometimes the best thing to do is turn them loose on the thing that you probably have already identified could be better.
Right.
I love a hackathon.
And speaking of technology, and maybe this is a stereotype, but I think one of the things people will say about Gen Z is like they can't even pick up a phone, or like you're talking about, they really want to learn those interpersonal skills. They're much more comfortable, whether it be texting or emailing or something that there's not that kind of face-to-face interaction. Is that true? Or is that something like the avocado toast myth we touched on earlier?
It's like an avocado toast misconception. It's not even like a myth. It's like more of a, yes, they can navigate technology all the time, but they're like, we do technology all the time. Like it's almost that in-person opportunities are novel and exciting, but that doesn't mean that they're going to walk in without apprehension. You know, walking into a space and be like, I don't know anybody is scary for any young person in the first time. Like the first time I went to church or a movie by myself, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm by myself. And then I was like, no one cares. People are still nice to you. They're going to be nice to me if I'm with a friend or my husband or if I'm by myself. Right. So it's the confidence thing. They also recognize like we all got a little weird during the pandemic and our social skills got a little weird, like no matter what generation you are. However, when you are 22 and you're trying to figure out how do I communicate in the workplace, you don't have those feedback loops like in person that they were having. And so many people were figuring out work remote. I think there's a lot more fully remote companies that are figuring out how to help people socialize when we're distributed all over the world in our companies. But Gen Z they can navigate technology really well, but they're also like, I do it all day, every day. And so they still want that opportunity to connect. And I think it's setting the expectation. So, right, like if you go into a space, I work with a lot of students, I've been in student spaces, and you just say like, hey, we're going to be tech free for the next hour. Would love if you can stay off your devices. I also recognize like half your world is on that device. I get it. Like we're all kind of connected that way, but like leaning into it, and older generations can lean into that discomfort of creating tech free spaces for that. And explaining why we're being completely tech free is so important. Like it's the cultural norms and etiquette piece of it. For Gen Z, they don't mind they're all on their phone because they're all on their phone and that's like a normal etiquette thing. Older generations be so rude.
Right. Are there any generations that you think get along better than others? Because just like you said, there is that misconception of rudeness or what defines rudeness that is probably different depending on when you were born.
Yeah. So this is a fun one. When we looked at like who's the most collaborative generation, we kind of use that as a proxy variable to be like, who likes each other the best?
Right.
Everyone thinks their own generation is the most collaborative. Like, of course. But we took out like the self-rating and we were like, out of you other generations, who would you rate the highest? Gen X is like actually the highest rated by other generations. And so like, I've said this in a lot of other episodes, like they're the cool girl that works well with everybody and like cool popular girl. rare. There's fewer Gen Xers, but they work well with a lot of other people. Millennials and Gen Z, again, they have like kind of like a cool cousin vibe going on, right? Like we get each other. Millennials are like, we get it. We are the punching bag first. And I think we have like a little bit of a protective nature over Gen Z. Like I love them. They recognize our flaws. We recognize theirs. We have like a kind of a secret pact together. And I hope we keep that up. We'll do great things together. Baby boomers, they get along really well. Gen X, but Gen X was really trained by a lot of cases, a workforce that baby boomers dominated for a really long time. And so when I say that adaptability, like Gen X can kind of float, like they can be friends with millennials. Like we get along really well. We oftentimes have a lot of the same entertainment stuff that we like, but then they can float with the baby boomers and be like, we get it. We did a world before this hyper technological space. So we all work it now. Weirdly enough, like baby boomers and Gen Z don't not get along. They think they don't get along, but there's some weird overlaps that they have. They just see it slightly differently.
Like what?
Like baby boomers still want to have a purpose and make an impact through their work, but it's like very immediate and localized. Gen Z is like, I want to make an impact on the world. Like I want to make an impact on everyone. And so baby boomers are like, whoa, chill out. Too much energy, too much passion. Whereas Gen X or Gen Zers are kind of like, you're not getting enough done. You've been in power for God knows how long, and you still haven't fixed this problem. And so there's this kind of clash of, in my opinion, it's pace of change. But they both want positive things to happen. Because you should remember, baby boomers were the ones that were at the civil rights movement. They were the ones protesting the Vietnam War. They were some of our first like more modern activists. They were all hippies or yuppies, right? Like in that time period. And so like they had their own era of activism. And so they look at today's youth and they're like, too much. It's too much. Because younger generations can mobilize a lot faster. They can get the message out a lot faster. And the rate of change that we're all going through that's driven by younger generations sometimes feels a lot faster than it was for previous generations.
Keeping up with online reviews across platforms is tough, but FeedCheck makes it easier by bringing all reviews from all channels into one place. In addition to tracking your own feedback, you can even monitor competitors to see how you compare. They provide deep insights into customer sentiment, trending topics, common issues, and patterns that might otherwise be overlooked. Plus, real-time alerts mean you can respond quickly before things escalate, and AI-powered suggestions help you craft better responses. So, if you want to stay ahead of your reputation, book a demo with FeedCheck at feedcheck.co/sweetsuccess or through the link in the podcast notes. I want to talk a bit about the hospitality industry because we have specifically seen that the industry is still going through a bounce back after staffing shortages, some of which was COVID, some of which was a confluence of other factors. And I'm inspired by what you're saying about the return to office mandates or opinions, that there's not like one generation who's like, absolutely not, I have to be remote or I'm not working, because a lot of entry-level hospitality jobs are on property. They're at the hotel, they're welcoming guests, they're taking care of people in person.
Yeah.
What are some things that you think the industry could do to attract Gen Z employees to it?
Yeah. And as I think about this, I think there's quite a bit that when you think about like what Gen Z wants in work, the hospitality industry is like right there. It's about messaging. So much of like, in my opinion, the employment gap is messaging, regardless of the industry. A lot of times industries, companies, organizations, we're not good at branding ourselves to be attractive. Like I've done some stuff with the military. I'm like, I don't know why people are not flocking to join the military, given like the stuff you actually do. Most people don't know what you do, right? I think with the hospitality industry, we kind of get an idea of, we've all probably all checked into a hotel, right? We kind of know what that person does, but there's a multitude of other roles that exist in that industry. But the everyday consumer, which is oftentimes the everyday job applicant, doesn't know that there's the multitude of other things that occur. And so let's bring the reality of like what it's like to be in that industry. That's a messaging thing. specifically when we think about Gen Z though, we think about their pure motivation. They love to make a difference for people. They love to make an impact. They don't like to disappoint people. Like they actually do. I think when I think about what good hospitality people do, they listen to you and they help you solve a problem, or they welcome you and make you feel included. They make you feel good that you're going to engage in the experience, whether it's a hotel or some form of travel experience. They make you feel good about that opportunity that you're about to have. And I think Gen Z would actually be really attracted to that if trained the right way, and really making it clear of the expectations of that industry. Like, yeah, there's not really a way that you can just do remote, checking people into a hotel, right? But I think it's telling the fuller story of what hospitality actually means. I mean, this is a generation that loves inclusion and making sure that people, they're the kind of people that are not like, oh, there's not enough seats at the table, exclude people. They're like, just get a bigger table and more chairs, right? To me, that's like very... hospitality is get a bigger table and chairs for people.
Yeah.
Solve the problem by bringing people in. And so I think that there's an opportunity to really focus on like what they want to do in terms of inclusion and that relationship element, but making an impact, like telling the impact of how the work that's being done in an industry and organization does make an impact and changes lives. I was recently on a panel with one of the leaders of IHG Hotel Group. And he's talking about how diversity is not one of their key priorities as it might seem like in a strategic plan. It's woven into everything that they do. And he talks about how every time they interact with a guest, it's an opportunity to create an inclusive experience. So it's in their DNA. And so he's like, we don't make it a big DE&I initiative because it's the expectation that we make people feel included. I'm like, yeah, you should tell more people about that. Like, tell younger people that that's their opportunity to make people feel included. So I think there's that piece of it. But they also love that path, like not that checklist, but a really unambiguous, clear path to how they can advance, right? So if you do this, this, and this, you're eligible to be considered for a promotion. You do this, this, and this, you take this training, then you might be able to work on this other team within our organization. And so I think there is, that probably is relatively, in some of our calls, we talked like, it's kind of there already for some of the larger companies and organizations, the hospitality industry, but even smaller scale groups, there's nothing wrong with charting out what is a typical trajectory for people to be considered for that next level in their career. Do they have to do X, Y, and Z, certain number of hours to be eligible for an important training that they might need to take the next leap in their company? And what does that time frame look like? To Gen Z, it's like, they want to cut through the noise with expectations and have the information they need to do what they need to do and do it efficiently.
I have to say, I agree. I think it is probably a branding issue. And I'm sure a lot has changed from when I was making my college or university decisions. But going back to what you mentioned at the very start of, there are some people who know right away at 17, 18 years old what they want to do, and that's what they do. And I've worked with a lot of people in the hotel industry who went to hotel school for college. Mm-hmm. And if I had known that was an option, I think I absolutely would have done that. Because going back to what you said, hospitality is about making people feel welcome. We don't have to have a DE&I initiative to say we want all people, no matter what, to feel welcome here, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that especially the big hotel groups, but even the smaller ones as well, have management trainee programs where you can try out different departments and then choose your path after that. I mean, everything that has existed in the industry for decades already sounds like it would be so perfectly appealing to Gen Z, but I have to wonder if they know about it.
Correct. They've been, as a society, we've all been kind of force fed, like we all need to know STEM and we all need to be engineers. We all need to be able to code apps. That's
why?
Necessary.
AI is going to do it for us. So
Correct. Why? And so many industries it's a bit of the marketing and the branding. And like, I've noticed that there are more and more jobs occurring in the marketing space for internal marketing. So they are marketing the experience of being an employee of that company because it's a recruiting tactic and they're sitting under people management and like telling the true story of what it's like to be there. It's not just about sales, because I'm the kind of person, I like brand loyal. Like I will be like, bury me in my Rothy's and cover me in a Delta Airlines flag when you put me in there, right? Like I I am so loyal to the companies that take care of their customer, but I also know those companies take care of their people. And that matters. That matters to younger consumers as well. So it's not just the marketing to your consumer, it's the marketing to the person that you might want working for you, because they are your number one ambassadors as well.
Yeah. And they're the ones who are then taking care of your guests, particularly in the travel industry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Meghan, this has been fascinating to me. I want to ask you the last 3 questions that I ask every guest.
Okay.
And the first one, I imagine it might have something to do with Delta. What was the best hospitality experience you've ever had?
I'm gonna be honest. So I love Delta so much. I people are like, do you have stock in Delta? Like, are they paying you things? No, I just love them. But I actually want to shout out one of like more independent hotel experience that I had. Delta knows I love them. Everyone that knows me knows I love Delta. Like we got it. But it's actually our stay at the Glenlow Abbey in Galway, Ireland, was just like, it was a trip of a lifetime. It was for our honeymoon. But when I talk about like this hotel was like a dream hotel for me. We didn't want to do the stereotypical like stay in a castle, but we're like, let's stay in an abbey instead. But the minute we rolled up, like it was just the nicest people, like Irish people. I'm Irish, ethnically Irish, so like I fit right in. But like the nicest people that just from the minute that you were there made you feel welcomed. I think I talk about their kind of concierge front desk person, Sandra, on a daily basis, maybe every other week. It's been 3 years since I've seen this woman, but I hope she's doing well. Like I talked with her every day on my way to breakfast because she made my breakfast reservation because she knew that I seemed to like lunch or like breakfast at 9 a.m. She was correct. Just no touch point where we ever felt unsupported. And mind you, we were there midday or midweek. And so like it wasn't as busy, but like just top notch. Like the doorman offered to drive us back to the train. And then we talked about his time that he lived in Nashville where I live. And like, we're just bonding. And it might just be like Irish hospitality is next level, but it just felt like my husband was like, you have to leave this hotel. We're done staying here. We're going to the next place. I said, I don't know. I think they would let me stay forever.
I think I live here now.
I do. And it's just like such a unique, wonderful experience. They have a piece of the Orient Express, like that used to travel through Europe, and they have a restaurant on it. So like for me, it was like check, 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 and check. Like it was just amazing. When I think about a time when I was like, I think I want to live here and be Eloise at the Plaza, but I'll be Meghan at the Glenlow. Like that's what I really want. And so with my friends, the Glenlow Abbey in Galway, Ireland, just delightful. And for friends that are traveling there, just stop by for tea. Tell Sandra I said hi. She's amazing. You'll know immediately who she is. Like I think she's mentioned in multiple Google reviews by people.
Well, on the opposite side of that, a place where Sandra would probably never work. What was the worst hospitality experience you've ever had?
I don't know. Like, and I think I'm a little. It's because I get really brand loyal, and then I don't break that brand loyalty because they like they take care of me. I'm like, I can't think of a time that it was really, really not great. I've been to hotels where I'm like, that wasn't the best. Honestly, you might have people that are like working outside of the hotel and kind of like a big company. I'm like Airbnb. Sometimes I'm like, beautiful home, horrible service. Like not Airbnb as a platform, but sometimes hosts are just kind of like, you need to do 15 chores before you leave. And I'm like, what is the cleaning fee for? So I think that that's just eroding the travel experience in general. And it's like, I don't love it. I've actually started to opt away from Airbnbs and just stick with hotel brands that I really enjoy.
And final question for you. You touched on this a bit earlier, but what does hospitality mean to you? And is there any one or any brand, I can think of a few, I'm guessing, that has truly mastered it to you?
To me, it is when you walk in, you feel like it's not like you're taking care of like you're at home, but it's like you're having a slumber party at your friend's house. And there's like, I could rattle off a few that I really enjoy. One of my favorite hotel stays was, I'm a big fan of the Virgin brand as well. So the Virgin Hotel in Nashville, we did a staycation for my birthday, and it's completely dog friendly. And I swear to you, they were like, get out of the way, lady, your dog's here. Like, we love him. And he's such a good stay. Like we take him to get coffee there sometimes, and he's like crying in the car because he's so excited to go see his friends at the hotel. But that extends to like, I think Virgin's brand in general. Like I'm about to go on a Virgin cruise because they take such good care of you, and you don't have to be like in a suite. It's like they take care of everyone. They treat everyone like we're having a big slumber party at sea, and that you are their best friend to be there. Another brand that Delta, I love you, girl. We're going to be in it for life. But when I think about hotels, I really love Marriott's Moxie brand as well. It's a younger brand. It's definitely geared towards millennials, but their staff, I've stayed at multiple across the country. Their staff is just always chill. Like it's your best friend. Like, oh, I need a cup of coffee. Do you have a recommendation? Yeah, just right down the road. There's this great spot. It just feels more local. And the encouragement of the way they've structured their hotel is like, they want you to hang out in the lobby by the bar, not to be drinking, but like they got games, they got books. It's a living room feeling. And so it feels like you're back in college and like a lounge with your friends. And we've met incredibly nice people that are guests. We've met incredibly nice staff members by staying at Moxie hotels. But to me, it's the feeling of if I was going to treat someone like they were staying at my house. And that's not just like hotels. It's anytime that you are hosting someone for an excursion, anytime that you're taking someone, retreats, anything that you're doing, there's a way to make people feel comfortable away from home. And I think that innately it's not seeing every person as a transaction, but as a relationship.
Dr. Meghan, this has been so much fun. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. And I was like, man, I got to nerd out about generations and travel. It's like two of my favorite things.
Best things in the world.
Really, yeah.
All right, everyone. It's time for today's sweet summary, where I break down the key insights and actionable takeaways from today's conversation. I really enjoyed learning about the generations from Dr. Meghan. Here's a quick refresher on how she broke them down. First, baby boomers, born between 1946 and 1964. They grew up in a time of safety and security, and that overall feeling of prosperity has shaped who they are. They're a large generation, widely known for their unwavering loyalty. Then we have Gen X, born between 1965 and 1980. They're smaller in numbers, but big on adaptability. More than anything, they value flexibility and aren't afraid to question institutions. Next, millennials, born between 1981 and 1994. This is another large generation. And while they hold immense economic power, their financial progress has been slowed by student loans, multiple recessions, and other world issues. Still, what they're most known for is their heightened level of optimism and, of course, their love of avocado toast. And finally, Gen Z, born between 1995 and 2010. They're smart, savvy, and tenacious, more empowered at a younger age than any generation before them. But really what we need to understand as a collective is how can we attract the next generation of leaders to the hospitality industry? According to Dr. Meghan, we already have a lot going for us. Gen Z is driven by purpose. They want to make a difference at work, they don't want to let people down, and they prioritize inclusion. They also crave a clear path to advancement, which aligns perfectly with our industry's longstanding department rotations and management training programs. So, where's the disconnect? According to Dr. Meghan, it all comes down to messaging. And no, this communicator did not make her say that. We need to do a better job of showcasing what makes the hospitality industry so attractive in the first place. This is a question that I'm sure most of us could talk about for hours, possibly days, if not longer. After all, what other industry lets you create unforgettable experiences, connect with people from all around the world, and turn everyday moments into something truly extraordinary? For many of us, hospitality isn't just a job, it's a passport to see the world. Now we just need to make sure Gen Z knows it. And that concludes another episode of Sweet Success. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please subscribe, rate, and review the show. We all know how important those 5-star reviews are. I also want to say a massive thank you to each and every one of you for tuning in. It means the absolute world to me. And I'd love to hear from you. If you have ideas for future guests, new topics to cover, or even just want to say hi, don't be shy. Message me through our website, sweetsuccesspodcast.com, or on social media @sweetsuccesspodcast. That's sweet like hotel suite. Once again, I'm your host, Katie Cline, and I'm super excited to see you all next week.